I'm Jennifer Battle, and I'm bringing you conversations about life, entrepreneurship, and the fuck it energy it takes to change the world. I'll also be sharing the mic with trailblazers who said nope to the status quo and created a life or business that was right for them. Tune in each week to hear real stories served with humor, a side of frankness, and a pinch of sass so you know what it takes to be unfuckwithable. Hey, what's up, Unfuckwithable community? I'm really excited to talk about this particular series. And I say series because I wanted to have a couple of episodes dedicated to something that's really important to me. And that is how we are making decisions, particularly big decisions. There is a change in the air. We're at this point, and this is the sense that I feel and that I'm getting from my friends and my colleagues, where there are several shifts. There are shifts happening everywhere. There's the internal shift. There's the I'm at the end of the year and I feel like I should have accomplished this thing shift. There's the moving into the new year shift. There's this cultural shift. There's things that we're seeing all around us that are very unsettling. We are unsettled. And when we have those feelings, this tends to be the time where we start to review and take stock and make decisions and make choices. And lately, I have heard from my friends and my colleagues that they are stuck. They're having a hard time making these really big, important choices. And so I wanted to dedicate the next couple of podcast episodes to really thinking about how we're making these choices, because I think the existing normal, quote unquote, decision-making paradigm, which is a fancy way of saying how we make decisions, right? It just isn't working. It doesn't work. I don't think it takes into consideration our humanity or our creativity or just frankly how we work as people. So the first thing I wanted to tackle was how we create this great foundation for decision making under a different paradigm or a different method. So we've done it the old way, where we may have thought about a couple of options, weighed the pros and cons. Maybe we talked to a few of our friends to get their opinion on something. And then through logic or will or whatever, we make a decision, we make a choice. Well, sadly, though, and this is all anecdotal, but I honestly don't think we get the best decisions from that analytical, hyper-productive, action-oriented place. I want to suggest some alternatives. And there are foundational things that need to happen in order for us to make really good decisions. So today's episode is going to be about rest. And you might think, Jennifer, what the heck does rest have to do with decision making? And I'm so glad you asked that, because I want to tell you, I want to start with the context of a story. You know me, I like to tell stories, I like to talk. And actually, if you've listened to my podcast, you've heard the story before, but I want to tell it again now from a different perspective. Recently, I attended a 7-day retreat. It was in the middle of the mountains. There was very little Wi-Fi. We were very much disconnected from the quote modern world, but we were in this beautiful space, beautiful retreat space, and it was for a full 7 days. Well, the first thing was full 7 days. Have you ever taken 7 full days for yourself? I hadn't in a really, really long time, if ever. So that was crazy to me. But before I get into the actual retreat, let me talk to you about what was happening before the retreat started. So I signed up for this retreat because I knew this was going to be good for me. I didn't quite know how, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew it would be really good for me. So I signed up for this retreat. I had a senior high school student getting ready to graduate. And if you have ever had that experience, there's a lot of end of the year stuff. There was tests, there were college decisions, there were banquets, and she played a couple of sports. So there was all these celebrations. And then let's throw in AP testing and prom and wanting to say goodbye to all the friends and college visits and just you name it. It's happening that last couple of months for school. Also, we decided to sell our house. So in the spring, we were prepping our house for sale, getting things repaired, painting, cleaning things out. Then graduation hits, and of course, our all of our family comes to town. Many of them stay at my house. We opted to have a graduation party for our daughter. So there's the party, there's the graduation ceremony itself, there's coordinating family members, tickets, seeing everybody, etc. Then the week before the retreat happens is when we list our house for sale because, perfect timing, right? We list our house for sale. The good news is there's a lot of interest. From a relaxation point of view, it was rough because there was showings after showings, and then we got offers and different offers, and there was negotiation back and forth. And I remember saying, "Dear Lord, if you loved me, this will be done before I have to leave for 7 days." It was so stressful. I was frazzled, frayed, whatever the word is to say I had about lost my shit. That's what I was. That's how I was rolling into this retreat. In my business life, oh, I forgot to add that. In my business life, I was still working. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. Just because the rest of my life is busy doesn't mean that I just stop. I need to eat, pay some bills, all that stuff. So I was actively recruiting. I believe I was even onboarding a new team member. So everything was going all at once. I remember getting on the plane. Actually, I don't remember getting on the plane. I remember getting off the plane and being in New Mexico and getting picked up from the airport. And all I could think of is this lady probably thinks I'm nuts. My hair was all over the place. I had dark circles under my eyes, probably bags that could hold its own luggage. And I'm sure I looked a bit like a zombie. Let's add in a couple-hour time change with that. So I was just all over the place. We got to the retreat facility, and the retreat organizer went through a few things. But the thing that stuck out to me was this was my time. And she told us we could opt in and opt out of whatever. So if we were exhausted or we were tired, we could sleep, we could rest. You didn't have to do these were, this was our time. And I took that to heart. And those first few days, I honestly don't remember much because I just remember eating, going back to bed to sleep. Some people were going into town. I'd go back to sleep. I'd lay down. I'd read a book. I'd listen to a book, but it was all stuff that would just brought that stress level way down. And I remember going into the retreat that there were also lots of questions. One of my goals was I had a lot of questions in my business and even in my life that I wanted to answer, or choices that I needed to make. And I was hoping by the magic of this coaching and this retreat that I'd be able to answer these questions. The reality is that the coaching was great. No shade on the coaching. Coaching was amazing. But what really allowed me to get into that correct headspace and make those decisions were the first few days. Those first few days where I took time for myself and I rested. I rested. And that laid the foundation for the big decisions that I ultimately made at the end of the week. It laid the foundation for the clarity. It made the foundation for the contemplation. It laid the foundation for the creativity. I would have never gotten there without the rest. So I want to spend some time talking about rest and not sleep, but rest. So the first thing, let's do a little mini science lesson because, I'm a world renowned scientist. Just kidding. One of the things to understand about rest is how your body feels when it's not rested versus when it is rested. Many of you have probably heard the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. These are very important systems in your body, especially when it comes to rest and functioning and stress and not stressing. So your sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight. So you've heard about the fight or flight response. When your body is under stress, it produces a hormone called cortisol. And, that's that the sympathetic nervous system activates and you have that fight or flight response. your body creates a whole host of reactions. Now, this is normally a good thing. When our body is created this way so that we can have a response to a dangerous or stressful situation. The challenge comes when we're always under stress. We're always pumping out that cortisol. It can have so many detrimental effects on the body. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system, this is the one I like. I call it the warm and cuddly. This is when we are at rest or relaxed, our heart rate slows down, our blood pressure lowers, our digestion improves. I mean, this is like that feel good part of your nervous system. This is the part that we want when we are getting ready to make decisions. We do not want to make decisions from this fight or flight mode. Can you imagine you're trying to make big lifelong decisions when you're under that level of stress? Now, the thing is, you might think it only has to be, oh, a bear is coming and I'm stressed. It could be work projects, it could be emotional stress, it could be a lot of things that trigger that same response. Yet, many of us are still trying to make smart, aligned decisions from this place. It ain't going to happen. You have got to rest. And rest doesn't just mean sleep. There are 7 types of rest, and I'm going to reference the author in the show notes who talks about the 7 types of rest. There's also another book that's a favorite of mine called Rest is Resistance, and I'm going to link to that in the show notes. Now, you may not have studied rest and you may not have read these books that I reference, but as I talk about the 7 types of rest, I'm sure they're going to resonate with you. We've got physical, mental, emotional, sensory, creative, social, and spiritual. Those are the 7 types of rest. And I'm not going to go through all of those. Read the book. It's important to know that it's more than just sleep, because how many of us have gone to bed and maybe slept 12 hours and wake up and still feel exhausted? And it may be because mentally, we're still thinking about our projects. We're still thinking about work or a deadline or the things we have to do. People talk a lot about mental rest when they're talking about partners and partnership, where yes, you might take out the trash, but if I have to remind you to take out the trash, well, then that's still mental load for me. So we need those breaks. We need to take steps back from these things in our lives, and we need to rest. So it's more than sleep. It's more than giving yourself a facial or something like that. Sometimes it might be sitting in a dark room. It might be listening to music. It might be, here's my favorite, binge watching some mindless show because I just don't want my brain to have to work anymore. But there are so many different types of rest. And when I was on that retreat, I experienced many of them. I loved being taken care of because I didn't have to think. I didn't have to worry about what was for breakfast. Breakfast was there for me. I didn't have to worry about sleep because you know what? If I was tired, I went to my bed and I took a nap. I wasn't stimulated by all the bleeps and blooms and all that stuff from notifications because the Wi Fi didn't really work. And when I wanted to rest my creative brain, I just zoned out to a book. It was great. And so, as those days went on during the retreat, and I rested, I truly rested, and my parasympathetic nervous system was just like loving me, giving me that warm, gooey hug. And I was relaxed and breathing well, and my blood pressure was low, and I didn't have hardly any stress. I didn't have no stress, but I had hardly any stress. That's when the solutions started to come to me. That's when we had our coaching meetings or our coaching sessions, I could really engage. My brain was fresh and on fire and craving information. I mean, we may not have to go on a 7-day retreat for this, but you've probably had the experience where, gosh, I don't know, my best ideas come to me in the middle of the night. Well, maybe that's when your body's rested, your brain is rested, and then the solutions just start to pop up. I have my greatest ideas in the shower. Well, that's because you're zoned out. You're not overly stimulated and your brain gets to rest. So when we're talking about making these big decisions, a lot of times what prompts us to say, hey, I need to make a change is some sort of stressor. And we immediately go into this problem solving mode because that's how we're taught to deal with those things, right? Oh, I got a problem. I got to get a solution. I got to think this through. I got to write these things down. I got to figure it out. And actually, maybe instead, the best solution is to chill, is to just sit back and chill and relax. Let your nervous system shift from that sympathetic to the parasympathetic. And that's where the magic starts to happen. Now, that's just the foundation, in my opinion. That's step one. But it's a completely different way than at least I've been taught, and many of my clients and friends and colleagues have been taught, because we are all about creating solutions. As Vanilla Ice said, if you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Sorry, now you got ice baby in my head. Anyway, but as you can see, like, we are so conditioned to go into action mode, action taking mode, go for it, no days off, that kind of thing. That just doesn't work. And the more complex and difficult our problems are, sometimes the more we need to rest. So today I had a laundry list of things to do and choices to make, and I had to get creative and do some things. And I'd scheduled a Pilates class, and I was just like, you know what? This ain't going to work. I need to rest. So instead, I took my bottled water. I went out on my patio on my little rocking chair. The weather is perfect, 75 degrees and sunny. And I sat on my chair, looked at the mountains, and I just sat there and rested. I didn't think about anything. I wasn't trying to solve anything. And I just sat there. And then once I sat there, guess what? I got super creative. And it wasn't that I was trying to be creative. The things just started popping into my head. I challenge us to start to rethink the current normal decision-making paradigm, especially during this time where we're making some really big decisions and big choices. This is not lost on me. There are stats that are saying that a third of us entrepreneurs will be closing our businesses next year. A third. There are stats that talk about new technologies and how things are shifting, which means there might be shifts in what we do and how we do it. I was recently at a conference where people were expressing, some people, not everyone there, but they were expressing frustration in their roles. And so people are thinking of job changes. I get texts from people who are at these crossroads in their lives and want to figure out what they can do next. This is a time of change. This is a time where we are going to be asking ourselves to make big choices and big decisions. And instead of powering through or thinking about all the options, I challenge you to relax and rest. Turn off your phone, do things that make you feel good. And I believe that's going to give you a much, much better result than trying to power through when your body is already stressed to the max. So think about that, everyone. Think about how you're going to rest this week. And it can be 5 minutes a day. It can be taking a full week off. I don't really care how you do it. I just want you to try it. Because I truly believe, from my personal experience and from what I've seen with others who have adopted this philosophy, not only are they, number one, rested, which is something that we're all struggling with, but their ability to make these big, important decisions is just amazing. And that's what I want for you too. Thanks for listening today. We have new episodes every week to fire you up. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. And if you think a friend needs to hear this, make sure you share it with them, and share it as quickly as you would those crazy little dog videos. If you're ready to be around unfuckable, change the world type energy, Visit jenniferbattlebrands.com/joinsrs to learn about Success Revolution Society, a unique entrepreneur community for people just like you.